Sorry to headphone listeners, this time I did it in the first second of the podcast. Welcome back, everyone.
This is a momentous occasion.
Yes, I'm cracking open a beer. That's not a momentous occasion, that's quite common.
So true. The
But-
momentous occasion is something that we may have given away in the title.
Yes,
Uh,
this is the finale special. We've got 2.5
Yes.
finales on the docket today.
yeah!
It's going to be climactic. It's going to be in no way anticlimactic. It's no way going to be massively disappointing. But before
So
that,
true. Like every Doctor Who finale,
yeah,
there will be no disappointments whatsoever. But
Yep.
first, we need to get into our, hallowed advice segment,
what would the Doctor do?
WWTDD.
Yes,
And we have, in fact, been sent in a question by
yes.
a anonymous listener
Mm.
who has requested that we help them find motivation for doing a long project. And see, my advice here is that sometimes when you're undertaking a really long project, what you need is the support of the other people around you. Okay,
Mm.
what you need is many, many other people to all come together and make a song about how distressed you are. This will absolutely spur you on in the process of undertaking a long project. This cannot end badly in any way. And yeah, it's even better if the less notes in the song, the better, because that will mean you won't be distracted in the process of undertaking the project. You want to just like something you can really just cling on to, that like one note, and it can carry you forth.
Yeah, and even better if the people still can't hit those notes.
Yeah.
Or
The only
really sing at
variation I
all.
want in notes is unintentional variation.
Yeah. It's kind of half spoken word, half sung. You're not sure why. Eh.
It's avant-garde.
It's that's high art.
So
It's
true.
not the best Doctor Who song. The best Doctor Who song still is Who is the Doctor by John Pertwee.
Oh, banger,
Which is
hell
a
yeah.
banger.
Actually, legitimate advice, listen to that while you're getting your work done. It'll get you through.
The songs you can listen to while getting work done. Also, number one thing that I hope to one day hear in the club.
Oh, yeah. We go to Casbah, we take it over, we play exclusively that.
Yeah. Until we are
And also
forced somebody else
generally,
to leave.
Doctor Who background music is etc. It's actually very good for getting work done. I was like truly at like 5 or 6 a.m. this morning, listening to the entire new Series 4 soundtrack while frantically writing an essay. So like actually so real.
Yeah, this is so slightly outside the premise of our advice segment. But genuinely, last year when I had a bit of like, it was actually a bit of like SU paperwork, because I was president of a society once. I still am for 5 more days.
Ayo.
But they rejected our verses, sent it back a bit. I got so mad, and then I screamed at the sky, and then I listened to the Big Finish story, I Am the Master, on repeat several times while writing the new one. And it is honestly the best way to lock in, is to get hypnotized by Geoffrey Beavers. This will do good things to you and will not like make you a mind puppet of the Master.
God, that explains so much about you as a person.
Yeah, that was the day that I cured my mental health problems.
And got new, more interesting mental health problems.
Exactly.
It's a perfect trade.
I think we've given some surprisingly good and terrible advice. So let's get on to reviewing episodes. And before we get to the episodes that we actually want to talk about, there's an episode that you watched this week that I did not watch this week, and I honestly do not remember.
I want to talk about.
So I'm going to give you
so fucking bad.
5-ish minutes to talk about The Angels Take Manhattan.
Right. Yeah. That is the name of it, right? The fucking Matt Smith Weeping Angel episode. Am I wrong?
The Angels There were multiple Matt Smith Weeper-Gagan episodes, but yes, the Angels take Manhattan.
The fucking bad. Yeah, they're all bad, but the
other one's less bad. The other one is only bad because it's got like 11th Doctor and River Song doing annoying dialogue. It's otherwise quite good.
This one's got 11th Doctor and River Song doing annoying dialogue.
What else does it have?
That's exactly what I was going to start this rant with. Thank you. You've segued perfectly into the first part of my notes. Yes, I have notes.
I do try.
I'm a River Song hater. This is something I am known for, but in this particularly, the thing that I'm a River Song hater about is the way in which she is so commonly just like used as Stephen Moffat's particular fantasy. And like this has such a moment of that where it's like she slaps the Doctor. She just because essentially because it's dramatic and because Stephen Moffat was doing a classic one-hander. And it's just one of those things where like they have a companion or a character talk down to the Doctor, but not in a way that's like interesting conflict, in a way that's like Stephen Moffat wanted to be degraded in that moment. And it just ends up meaning absolutely nothing. Also, in terms of the River Song stuff, there's this one bit where River and Amy are both kind of ordering their husbands around. They go, husband, do this, husband, do that. And it's like so annoying and truly like one of the best examples I've ever seen of, the kind of people, make the argument of like, people make arguments against the institution of marriage. I think they should always use this as their main example because this is the best example you're going to get. So now to go on to like the real issues with this episode, which is the fact that I would not refer to it as a first draft because that would be too kind. This is the notes you make before the first draft. There are like notable like big moments like in the story where you can tell they really liked that. And then in between it just feels like they're trying to come up with ways to get there and failing miserably. Like there's this whole thing where because they read it in a book, River has to break her wrist. But the thing they read in the book is that something breaks, and like they use that as justification for why River absolutely has to break her wrist, and it's completely necessary. It's like, no, you just wanted this dramatic thing so that the Doctor can be sad about it, because it's all so that the Doctor can feel whatever.
Yeah.
And you did not care enough to actually set that up properly. And then you have Amy and Rory running away from the Angels. They're planning on, they want to run down the stairs to get out of the building. And then because there is one singular angel on the stairs they can easily push past, they're like, no, we're going to the roof. And it's like, that's because they wanted a dramatic set piece on a roof, not for any other fucking reason. And then they're on the roof and we're like, well, okay, I guess we have to jump off the roof and kill ourselves because that's the only way to get down from the roof. And then they do that, and then the Doctor and River come up by the fucking fire escape directly after that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Like, 0 to double suicide, and then it's like, no, here's a fire escape. But no, don't worry. The double suicide didn't kill them because they're back now and they're talking to the Doctor, because we need to have a bit where the Doctor's so fucking sad about them dying, because we can't have anything happen without them going back to see how the Doctor feels about it, because this is the only important thing ever. So the Doctor is so sad about the idea of them doing the double suicide, which they then do again. The dramatic thing of like, oh, we need to do a double suicide on the roof, and then that just doesn't work out. And then like 2 minutes later, they're like, okay, well, double suicide. Well, okay, technically Rory was already gonna die, and then Amy's like, okay, double suicide time. And it's like, if you want to build up to a dramatic double suicide, don't do that. Make it not have worked, and then do that again 2 minutes later. I can't believe I'm having to say this, but I think one double suicide per episode is actually fine. That's dramatic enough. It's actually worse when you have one double suicide and then instantly walk it back and then do it again, because it's like, okay, there are no stakes. This one could also be walked back. And in many ways it also kind of is, because it's like, yeah, they double suicide of old age. Whatever. So it's another like fundamental thing of like, oh wow, the companions died, but like not really, because they get to live a long life. It's the Clara shit. It's the Bill shit.
It's the like, shit that gets called out in the giggle. As if the giggle is not about to do that exact shit.
With a thing in the yeah, the giggle's doing that exact shit, but like I hate the fact that I'm.
Sorry. This is also giggle hating Connor.
Yeah, I fucking hate the giggle, and I fucking hate the fact that I'm like
Connor.
saying things that are said in the giggle.
Okay.
But anyway, it's just like undercuts any dramatic tension they had whatsoever, because they want to end the episode with a double suicide, and they've come up with 2 ways of doing it, and instead of picking one double suicide, they do a double suicide. It doesn't work. I'm a shell of a man.
I was just like drinking whenever you said double suicide in that, and I've almost finished this beer.
Hell yeah. You drinking game. Drink every time Luke talks about suicide.
Oh no. So I think I'm in a giggle. Also, sorry for. I think I'm in a giggle hating mood because I just listened to the companion chronicle Solitaire, which is a toy maker story. Where the Doctor gets turned into a ventriloquist puppet, and it's good. Unlike other stories, it's actually, I think, the best toy maker story that I've listened to or read or eaten with my face, which isn't saying much because all the ones on TV are shite. But
that is true.
So that was the Angels Take Manhattan. Unless you've got more. I hope you don't.
I think
for your
those
sake.
are the main points. Other than that, it's just the fucking. I don't know how they managed to make a story with like a story book inside a story type shit boring, because I love metafictional stuff, but they managed to make me #1 enjoyer of metafictional stuff hate this episode entirely.
It's quite easy to make metafiction dull.
Yeah, but like generally you can at least. Yeah, you can make metafic. It is easy to make it dull, I guess, but like not this dull. Like often you can at least kind of tease out something vaguely interesting that they don't care enough to explore. Here, there's just so fucking nothing, and also just the classic. We brought back the Weeping Angels, and they're doing other stuff now, and it sucks. I'm not even going into the Statue of Liberty shit. Fuck you. Fuck everybody. Fuck off.
Well said.
It's not good.
Well, there we go. We also watched The Face of Evil. So let's talk about Torchwood.
Let's talk about Torchwood.
Because this is the first of our finales to talk about, because you have watched the Torchwood Series 2 finale, both, fragments and exit wins.
Yeah.
Since we last.
Yes, indeed.
So
yeah.
Where do we start?
I really enjoy it. Well, we'll go fragments.
We'll start with fragments, yeah. Oh, you're cutting out a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. The technical difficulties. This is maybe, depending on how you count it, the second or third time we're recording this bit. But fragments.
Let's fucking go. Fragments is good.
Yeah. Right, speedrun all the things that we said in the previous
Speedrun all the things that we said. It's kind of... It feels a little bit disjointed with existing characters' whole situations.
Owen
but
never
fundamentally...
talks about his fiancée before this.
Yeah, that's weird. And like Tosh and her family. You mentioned she mentioned her family in an earlier episode, then.
Yeah.
Which is how does that chime? We were talking about the Yanto bit, which I like a lot.
I like all of it. I mean, it's
Yeah. But yeah, the Yanto bit is interesting in the ways in which it moderates between kind of the inherent silly, wacky goofiness of that bit and Yanto's whole deal at the time, which is pretty fucked.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I like the way it does it.
Oh yeah, it's good. I really like the Jack stuff.
Yeah.
Clever setting up stuff in this episode. I like, it does fill in a gap of what was Jack doing for the 20th century, right? Or all of the information we know about Jack, it all tracks, more or less.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, fragments, cool idea for an episode. Oh, good character beats in it. I like, fucked up war on terror unit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do like a lot of the aspects of the ways it's executed in the episode, just like generally with the flashbacks. I think
Yeah.
the music, like the background music in that episode, is really good in the
Mm.
way that it kind of uses a lot of different pieces of background music getting used because of how we focus on different characters and different
Okay.
situations that already kind of have the music associated with them and their issues. So you kind of like if you're someone who
Yeah.
listens out for background music and shit, which I am,
I
then
do
you're
not.
like, oh, let's fucking go, leitmotifs. So
Mm,
it's
mm,
a good
mm.
time. And I also really like how there's like a sort of coherency between the different flashbacks in
Yeah.
the usage of like montage. A lot of them have like uses of
Yeah.
montage, like of Tosh in the prison, of um, Owen kind of sort of waiting to hear about his wife that he has now,
Yeah.
of like Jack and stuff. A lot of it is of like montages of them and
Mm.
of like waiting,
Yeah.
which I think feeds into sort of themes of the episode in terms of like it's sort of odd in the ways that Torchwood kind of ruins their lives, but it also gives them their lives
Yeah.
after previously just being being this kind of in this purgatorial state.
Yeah. But also, it provides the counterpart to, because obviously the theme of Torchwood is that Torchwood will ruin your life. But there's the other
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
that, which is it makes you understand why Gwen is different as a character. Because she was not broken before she joined Torchwood.
mm.
It was like, see all the others in. I mean, obviously we already know that Yanto was. I mean, he was in Torchwood before that, but like we know that
Yeah.
Yanto joined
Yanto is
Torchwood
another
3.
interesting. Yeah, is another interesting one for that for me because we still don't see him before a Torchwood.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't get that full pre-Torchwood thing for Yanto. The
That
way
makes.
that like Gwen is specifically shown to be sort of undamaged before Torchwood compared to the characters.
Yeah,
Yanto is like on the other spectrum where we never see him
yeah,
without Torchwood trauma. It's
yeah,
like it's very I find it very interesting in terms of how that links into their
yeah,
characters and their
yeah.
kind of relationships to Torchwood.
Mm, mm, absolutely. And it's also good at recontextualizing Jack as he spent most of his time as Torchwood, you know, pretty much, you know, unwillingly, working there by oars, and then he finally gets this opportunity, but because it's Torchwood, the only opportunity is because Torchwood has broken someone so hard that they kill everyone else and then themselves.
Yeah, classic Torchwood.
Mm, mm, mm. And it again tying back into everything changes. That's the first episode. We then get the parallels of
Mm.
Jack and Gwen. Of we get Gwen joins Torchwood, filling in for Susie, who just died, and we get Jack becomes the leader of Torchwood after the previous leader does himself. It all works. It's good, and very much reminds us of our key themes going into the finale.
The finale.
Yes, I nearly said end of
Let's
days.
fucking go.
Exit wounds. Yeah, talk about end of days some other time, I'm sure. But yes, exit wounds.
Indeed.
Oh boy, exit wounds.
So true.
You've watched
Got
this more
a really
recently.
really good episode. It's interesting in how it relates to other Chibnall finales. Because there's a classic sort of Chibnall finale thing, especially in Doctor Who. We see this of like, I call it Chekhov's fucked up guy, where you put a fucked up guy in the first episode, and then you bring him back in the last one.
Yeah.
You get this in Series 11, Sim Shaw. You get this Series 12 with the Master. And this is an interesting kind of variant on that, in that there's a second fucked up a guy.
Yeah.
which is good.
Uh, I I like Gray a lot. He's not,
Yeah.
he's not a great, moustache twirling, but he is great as just holy shit. Like this is how you do the kind of villain who is fundamentally someone who is just broken, and you get this sense of like, no, things won't end happily. There's not going to be this, forgiveness or resolution. Both Gray and Jack are locked in this constant cycle of guilt and hatred, and neither of them can forgive the other in a way. Oh, it's good. It's
Yeah, and the only way out is to fucking chuck him in a box.
yeah, absolutely.
Which, funnily enough, is also the way out of the Series 11 finale, in which,
Yeah,
they chucked Simtar in a box. There's themes.
Yeah.
Well, there's very different reasons, but there's themes.
But yes.
And, if I compare an episode to Battle of Ranskirog Kolos, I like that episode.
Yes.
This is... I'm not doing a bit. I am known Battle of Ranskirog Kolos enjoyer.
Yes.
So.
I am also Battle of Ranskirog Kolos enjoyer, but I would absolutely say that I prefer Exit Wounds because holy shit, it's Exit
No,
Wounds.
I do. I would say that I prefer Exit Wounds, but I prefer Exit Wounds over most episodes.
Yeah. Oh.
But
Yeah. It's great. It's got so much. It's an episode that's got so much going on, and it is one of the few times in, Torchwood or Doctor Who that an episode can have so much going on and not feel like that cramped for it. Like even other, even stuff like Power of the Doctor, which I think is good and has a lot going on, feels very rushed and cramped. This feels like it treats everything with as much as it needs.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it sort of it really feels like it knows what it's doing. It's kind of like the polar opposite to Angels Take Manhattan in this way of like it feels planned. It feels intentional.
Yeah. So you've got the Jack stuff, you've got the Gwen stuff, you've got the Oa stuff, you've got the Tosh stuff. Yanto's also there. But it's all good. And yeah.
It is, yes.
Tosh and Owen.
And oh my god, Tosh and Owen, I was gonna say Tosh and Owen, dude. The tragedy.
Yeah.
The absolute tragedy of it is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's so much. It's it's Torchwood. It's Torchwood to the very core of it's over the top. There's weevils all over the street. Owen gets to do King of the Weevils again. There's an exploding nuclear power plant. There's John Hart, but also it is raw and emotional and real and human, and it's beautiful.
It's good. It's good. Like I said, I really loved that episode. I think that really ties in so well to the what's been a really excellent season. I think it really kind of is the finale that season deserves.
Absolutely.
And that is incredibly high praise because that season deserves a phenomenal finale, and that's what it got.
Absolutely. It does make me worried for Children of Earth because this is the thing, I've now had the time since watching Exit Wounds. Children of Earth I've heard from many other people. I've not watched it yet. I've heard from many other people and from almost everyone I've spoken to about it that it is one of the best pieces of television ever. But I can't see I can't see Torchwood without Tosh and Owen, right?
I feel like at the very least it's like it would be, they're not going to do this. It would be stupid to do this. Is
Yeah.
the thing of just forgetting them, right? They're
Yeah.
gonna have to. I've not seen it. I assume they're gonna be haunting Torchwood essentially,
I
right?
assume so, but
Like
the thing with
there's
Children of Earth
no other
also is,
way.
you know, I think this was back when Russell T Davies could still write really good Doctor Who or Torchwood.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
I've with Torchwood, I've spent so long in the Chibnallverse, and we called last episode Into the Chibnallverse. This episode,
Yeah, I
we're
don't know
talking
how to
about
leave the
100% Chibnall episodes, also Angels Take Manhattan. But like,
Mm.
this is, but like, I've been so much in this Torchwood, and like, I'm afraid to watch Children of Earth. And yeah, but I'll be very excited
Yeah.
to bring the listeners of the podcast along with us.
I know it is. It feels like we're stepping into this completely different sort of realm.
Yeah,
The thing that
it's
also gets me is that you see quite a few people say that like Children of Earth is good and the rest of Torchwood is bad. And
I
that is something that I feel so strongly opposed to that it
God,
makes me wonder if I will end up just like not
yeah,
out of spite for those people, but I mean just because like if a bunch of people who think that Torchwood season 2 is bad think that Children of Earth is good.
yeah. The fact
You
that's
know,
consoling
it
me is
feels
that
opposite.
no one has ever told me that Children of Earth isn't great. So we'll see. We don't know how many weeks it'll be until we review all of Children of Earth in 1 week, and that'll be the entire podcast.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
our plan is
Children of Earth special episode.
we're going to watch it together over the course of 5 days, and tell you our thoughts. And well, we'll see. Will it be as big of an anticlimax as the next thing we have to talk about?
Here we fucking go. Well, the next thing that we have to talk about
Oh yeah,
is not in fact the episode The Timeless Children.
that's true. The
Because
next thing
it's
we
a
have to talk,
two-part finale.
next thing we have to talk about is essentially the Cybermen, which isn't an anticlimax because it's the first part, second
Yes.
one and a
And
half
because it's good.
part,
Very good.
and
I
because
like
it's
it.
mostly good.
Yeah.
I liked most of Essentially Cybermen. I think what it could have done with is if you gave all of the rest of the episode just a bit more breathing room by removing the Brendan shit.
Yeah, it is something that we've been seeing now in this season, where you will just have an episode where there's some other shit also going on.
Yeah.
Fugitive of June for me
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like such a massive
It's-
culprit of this because it is just 2 episodes straight up.
Yeah. It's not unique
And
to this
is
series,
yeah, but it's because I'm rewatching this series
Yeah.
and because these episodes come so close to each other and feel like they have the same exact problem because they do.
Absolutely.
It stands out to me.
Almost exactly the same exact problem. Also, Spyfall Part 2. Yeah. It's, I am formulating a thing here of, and we'll get to our overall thoughts on Series 12, but, mystery boxes were a mistake. Mystery box storytelling should be destroyed.
True.
But essentially, Cybermen, let's talk about this. Let's be positive for now.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to like in this.
There really is. I think it's quite a fun one. It's one that I definitely really enjoyed sort of watching.
There's fuckers with weird names.
Hell yeah.
There's, it's an episode that appeals to me because even though it is creating a different cyber war at a different point in the timeline that's a lot later than all the other ones. I think I just hit my microphone. Sorry, listeners. It is still like timeline cyber wars. Big scale space, and I love when Doctor Who does like big scale intergalactic wars and stuff.
But I also think this is a really good take on that in terms of sort of showing its impact on the little people, right?
Absolutely.
Like I think one of my favorite stories that can be told about those big scale wars is how that kind of knocks on to people's lives. How do regular people live in unreal situation, right?
Yeah.
and I think that this does a really good job of just kind of showing us. I really like the sort of the glimpses that we get into like the camp that they have set up and all of that, and kind of when they talk about, oh, we have to get this done, we have to get that done, and it's like, yeah, it feels very real.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel invested into it, because it doesn't. It's taken this unreal situation and then it's grounded it in reality through these characters. I think it does a really good job of that.
That's, I think, one of Chibnall's strengths. And I love Ko-Shamus. I'll talk about this in the next episode. I wish that more of these 2 episodes was about Ko-Shamus. He's
so real.
Great character.
So real.
Wish there's more of him. Ashad's in this episode. I love that Ashad hates himself, and like, you know, the Siberian is weird and fucky, and
Siberian is indeed fucky.
Yeah.
In the sense that, well, actually, I think that's the next episode.
That's in the next episode. We'll get to that.
I'll get that.
Yeah. We'll get that. But no, I
need to slow my roll. Stick to this one. Stick to this one.
Yeah, I really like Detective Cybermen, mostly, apart from the Brendan shit, which, you know, is dumb. When we reveal what it's about, it's dumber. And it just, like, it's a cool idea, right? It's a great idea. It should not be in this episode. It should be in a different story that is about that entirely.
Yeah. I don't hate the Brendan shit. Like, if you take that fully out of the context of the story,
yeah,
I actually kind of like it. You know, I like that way of like, sort of interpreting the, you know, it through this sort of different lens of kind of a sort of more recognizable human experience that is kind of stand-in for the Doctor's experience. I really like that as a way of showing a flashback of the Doctor's experiences. I really like the fucking, why did they just electric chair him? What the hell experience that you get watching it. I think it's good, actually, but it just doesn't fit with this episode.
Absolutely, and especially in the next episode, which we'll get to, it doesn't make sense where it actually, because the Doctor doesn't react to it in the moment, so we're not sure if this is meant to be something the Doctor's seeing now, or the Doctor has seen, or it's just like, we as the camera are seeing it as just like, you know, from a neutral perspective, as it's something completely else is happening.
It doesn't have any relevance to the experiences of the character. Like,
and it is
that could have been its. You know what would have been a good, like, that could have been like its own episode where, like that, we see. I think if we saw like different versions of, I think it's set at like different times and locations, all of which seem like normal and human until weird shit happens right at the end. Of like shit like this happening, 2 incarnations of the Doctor. I think that would be a good episode that I would like a lot.
Yeah.
And then have it be. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even if we, you know, take it away from the context of the Doctor and Timeless Child, and we, you know, we skipped over talking about the Face of Evil earlier, but if you did an episode like that, where you have these like cutaways to, you know, something happening, and then you see in the real world, you know, there's some, you know, strange alien or hyper advanced computer that is imagining these things, and, you know, that's how it sees the world and that's how it interacts with reality, but it's completely distorted, and, you know, that's a really cool idea.
Good, I like that.
There's so much you can do with this concept, but not how it's used in this episode.
It's just, it's like it makes the episode worse than the sum of its parts.
And I think it takes up time that, you know, I think this episode has quite a bit that it needs to say, and I think a lot of it feels a bit rushed because it's just about 5 minutes shorter than it could have been, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I like the episode.
Yes. I've just opened my 3rd beer of this podcast recording, and you know what that means? It means it's time
less.
Children. So let's get into this.
Timeless children. Alright, so first of all, I think that one of the most important things to acknowledge about the episode, that is quite rarely acknowledged, is that there is in fact an episode in there.
Yes.
Setting aside the stuff of the Doctor finding out about the Timeless Child and everything, The rest of the episodes is an episode of Doctor Who, and it's an episode of Doctor Who that I like.
I kind of like it. I'm definitely more positive on the Timeless Children having rewatched it. However, I still don't like it overall. I still think it is bad. But yes.
Honestly, I kind of do like it overall. I don't like the Timeless Children reveal. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
The anger has died. It's been a long time. And at the end of the day, Doctor Who started in 1963 with the Doctor played by William Hartnell. That's what the show is. It's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. But overall, my experience watching the episode was a positive one. I had a fun time. I'm not going to say that it's a great episode, but, like, here's the thing. A lot of people do this thing where, like, when you say to them, hey, that episode you're talking about is terrible, they go, oh, but it's a fun one. You can't say anything. You can't criticize it. It's a fun one. And it drives me mad, and I hate it because I'm trying to complain about Day of the Doctor again, and they won't let me. But I'm actually going to use my right to invoke that. I'm invoking the fun one clause on the Timeless Children. This is my fun one. I have this right.
I mean, I enjoyed it because I was watching with other people. And I do see where you're coming from. I like, sit me down. There are a lot of episodes that I would rather watch less. This episode, it contains a lot of things that I think are bad. I think it's a bad finale. I think its ramifications ruin Series 12, and the fact that Series 12 has to focus around this instead of just doing anything else makes the series worse. It doesn't ruin it. There's still good parts of it, but yeah, there is a lot of fun there. Not all of it. A lot of it is a bit kind of shit, a bit boring. I think that, like, this is the episode where I understand people who don't like Chibnall dialogue, because I usually love Chibnall dialogue, right? He has this, like, hyper-realistic, slightly kind of strange, very stylistic tone that, I love, and it is a matter of taste, but I'm personally a huge fan of it. But in this episode, the dialogue is worse, right? And there's that scene where, like, Graham is complimenting Yaz, and I'm like, it's the scene where Graham is complimenting Yaz, and I'm like, this is what? This is not the Chibnall I know,
Honestly,
I've watched all
that scene was fine.
It's a fine scene, but, like, what's it doing? And why is Graham complimenting Yaz? It doesn't fit with his character, because, like, I know that, like, Yaz isn't that great, but also, like, I think that Graham has other people who he, I don't think that Graham is that over Grace, But anyway, that's a small thing. But yeah, Timeless Children as a whole, slightly more positive on it, but I think overall it has a lot of mistakes.
I think overall, and I'm definitely not claiming that it's good. And one thing that I'm really with you on is the way in which the Timeless Children and the arc around the Timeless Children definitely makes Series 12 worse. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I completely, like, in terms of just, like, it's a thing that happens in a lot of New Who, where you just, like, every episode, you take 5 minutes to point at the mystery box and go, look, guys, there's a mystery box.
Absolutely.
And it makes the episode worse because it has less time to be the episode.
And this, and this is a thing, I think, a thing that we can both fundamentally agree on, is that this episode is bad, but it's not exceptionally bad. Like, it's pretty bad.
I think it's in no way, like,
it's in that, like,
unfathomable.
Bottom 5%, but there are a lot of other episodes.
I wouldn't go that far.
Maybe.
We're talking New Who.
Maybe. I meant overall.
Okay, no, I would. Okay, overall, maybe I'm not.
Yeah,
I
don't
calculate the fucking statistics.
Yeah.
Let's just talk, like, in terms of New Who, because, like, otherwise it's apples and oranges.
I'm saying, like, as a kind of, not necessarily strict statistics of things, but it's in that kind of, for me at least, it's in the shit episode category.
Still, I think that there's a lot more to like here than a lot of other episodes that I would deem shit.
it's
I
a
want to
lot
talk
more
about the Master in
watchable.
this episode.
Yeah,
Okay, the Master in this episode is so fucking fun.
he's so good.
I alluded to this earlier, but
Yeah,
like, dude is fucking the Siberian.
yeah,
It's
dude
good.
is. This is. You know how we watched Haunting of Bearded Artie and like, okay, this is the Lord Byron episode. Obviously, this is the horniest episode of, Chibnall's Run and Series 12 in specific. How wrong we were.
Nope.
I
It was so fucking wrong
forgot
because the
that
Master is fucking the Siberian.
he's fucking the
It's so
Siberian,
good.
but also, like, Chibnall is, I know that my man is on AO3. I know that my man understands that the Master wants to fuck the Doctor. And this is the thing, the Master's character is so inconsistent. You can read fanfic and it's often correct. But I really like the Master's characterization in this.
Yeah.
I think my main takeaway from this episode is that I might go out and buy the new Big Finish Sasha Dewan Master box set.
Straight up, like, I have been thinking about that. I have some other big finishes that I need to listen to that I already have access to,
same.
so I don't know if I'll get it for a while. But like, it's definitely on that list because I really like the Dwan Master.
I'm gonna try and persuade the new treasurer for Huzok to buy it. Yeah.
I can see what I can do. Ex-treasurer to new treasurer, and also as VP, I can try and. Yeah, although the main thing that I'm going to be working on is obviously getting Lung Barrow.
Of course. Speaking of a Lung Barrow, should we talk about Time Lord lore?
Time Lord.
Yeah. So, the Timeless Children. We've danced around in this episode, and I will come back to a lot of the other elements of this episode, but let's talk about the Timeless Child. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. It's there. I think that there is something that can be done that's interesting about the Time Lords as exploiting the Timeless Child. Like, there's a lot of ground there, especially if you want to get into allegory, if you want to get into kind of political historical allegory of
absolutely.
There's a lot there.
I am vehement about the idea of, the Time Lords should represent the British Empire as much as the Daleks represent the Nazis, These things can't get in my mind.
This is a big time, imperialism kind of thing. I think they don't really do much with it, though, is the thing.
So, we'll get to the ramifications of the Timeless Child being the Doctor specifically, but I'll go through my other thoughts on it. The main issues I have is, there's all this thing of, everything is going to change. But we, the audience, do not know what the preconceived, founding origins of the Time Lords are meant to be to the Doctor and the Master. Because I am a member of the audience, I'm viewing this from a certain perspective of someone who has listened to Zagreus, and who thinks Zagreus is perhaps the most important piece of Doctor Who media that exists, right?
Absolutely, like, objectively,
Yeah, it is the center of how I judge things as quote unquote canon. That's a lie. I judge everything as canon, but I judge more things as important. That's a whole separate discussion. But as I understand it, of course the Time Lords are corrupt. They were founded by Rassilon, who, as we all know, is the best villain in all of Doctor Who, and is the ultimate villain of Doctor Who, and you shouldn't misuse him in I hate Hellbent so much, and we'll get on to how...
fucking Hellbent, actually.
We'll get on to how...
Do you want to talk about Hellbent for a minute?
We'll get on to Hellbent and the Timeless Children and the, ways in which they are fucked in the same way.
Hellbent, I'll fucking say that.
That I will stand by till my grave. They are equally destructive to the back...
Children... 100 times than watch Hellbent once.
They're equally destructive to the Doctor's backstory, but one of them is more enjoyable. That's the basic summary.
This is true.
Anyway, what was I? So the point is,
I would argue that honestly, Hellbent is a bit more destructive.
They're destructive in different ways, and
that's fair.
Time
but the way in which
higher
Hellbent
level
is destructive angers me more.
Yeah. So I am from the perspective that the Time Lords are corrupt arseholes. And, the Doctor and the Master both fought in the Time War. Why are they shocked that the Time Lords were doing atrocities? Okay, they lied about some shit. No shit, fuckers. Of course they lied about shit. Like I like the premise. I like the idea that the Time Lords stole regeneration from, torturing a child. I like, and I get the idea of introducing Tecteun because, yeah, you want to keep Rassilon for the big ones. You know, none of the, how it gels with pre-existing Time Lord lore, it's fucked, but, the Dark Times, Gallifrey. Honestly, the Timeless Child is so fine for me as a twist because it takes place in the Dark Times, where everything happened because they hadn't invented time yet. Like, they hadn't invented the linear progression of cause to effect. You can't say that anything's true or false then. This is why I will become a great Flux defender in about 2 podcast episodes' time. Actually, several podcast episodes' time. It's going to be a while before we watch Flux. But,
I'm looking forward to it, though.
From the perspective of view of The Timeless Children as an episode, it just doesn't really work as a twist because it's not twisting anything. And then it's the Timeless Child is the Doctor, and it's like, on one hand, this is bad because I dislike genetic destiny storytelling. I dislike the storytelling that is that kind of idea of important people are important for, genetic personal reasons. However, and I know I'm not letting you get a word in edgeways here, but I'm going off on one.
I'm letting it happen.
But like,
you let me go off on one about Angels Take Manhattan, man. This is your moment.
2.5 beers down. But however, it's also this thing of like, well, it clearly doesn't fucking matter. And this is, to get actually philosophical, I don't think I mentioned postmodernism at all last episode. I hope you're proud of me. But to get
actually, mention it more.
Yeah, but to get actually philosophical, in what sense are we saying that the Timeless Child is the Doctor? Because the Timeless Child is not physically the Doctor. Every atom of their body has regenerated. They are not mentally the Doctor because all their memories have been wiped.
Yeah.
So
Timeless Child of Theseus. At this point, it's different fucking shit.
Yeah, it's different. In order to say the Timeless Child is the Doctor, we have to presuppose the existence of the soul, right? Like,
which is like not, it's a little bit much to be getting into here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does the episode explore these philosophical connotations? No. Will Flux do it? Hopefully. I don't know. I don't really remember. I've only seen half of Flux.
In defense of the episode,
yeah,
it does do something that I think not a lot of people give it some credit for doing, where it does have kind of an acknowledgement of like, at the end of the day, the Doctor is the Doctor. The Doctor has never been defined by their past. Like, we do explicitly say that, and I think that's something that is not brought up ever when it comes to criticism of the episode.
I think
this is the main. Yeah, I think that is done reasonably well in terms of the way in which that's worded.
Yeah.
And the way in which, like, that expresses how I think the Doctor would feel about it.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not. Yeah, I do think that, like, it is worth mentioning that, like, it is also, like, the fact that it's kind of acknowledging that it means nothing is like, okay, maybe write a different arc then.
Yeah,
but, like,
it is.
Credit where credit's due. It acknowledges that it means nothing.
Absolutely, and it is worth noting specifically that the idea that being the Timeless Child makes the Doctor special and set apart is the stance of the villain. It's the stance of the Master. He's wrong. The episode refute that.
Like, while I get your point earlier about, like, I am a massive hater of genetic destiny stuff, it also does, like you said, because it's the villain saying it, it also kind of feels like a takedown of genetic destiny stories. Where it's like, the Doctor's genetic destiny was to be exploited, and the only person who regards this whole genetic destiny thing as being proof of, being special, being better, is the villain. So I do think that when people bring up the genetic destiny thing without acknowledging those issues, I think that's just not. That's
absolutely
like a incorrect read of the story.
And at a level, the Master's more annoyed that this means that the Doctor is part of him because he has so much repressed. Somehow this is heterosexual despite being also gay. Yearning. There's some definite weird horny shit going on in terms of like the Master realizing that, like,
he comes from the Doctor. Like that's
Yeah.
some kind of incredibly distant incest kink, really. If you think about it.
Truly. And, again, I overall think this episode is crap. But, like, I think there is a lot, as we're saying, this episode, I think even if you look into the thesis of, to ask about who is the Doctor, it's saying, no, it's not about who they are and what they come from. It's about what they do. And, this episode has the amazing part where the Doctor is like, I am going to go and sacrifice myself to destroy the Cybermasters. I would do that in a heartbeat for this universe. My minor nitpick is that she says heartbeat and not hearts beat. This is because I'm insane.
Fucking hell.
Sorry, I may have stopped using Reddit many years ago, but you
know.
can't kill some things.
God, you don't even, because that's true for me also. But I do actually, if you want to be fucking nitpicky, she is talking about sacrificing her life for humans. She is talking about how strongly she is on the side of the humans, and then using a human. A human phrase that does not make sense with her own biology. I actually think that's good. Fuck you.
Sure, whatever. But yeah, the scene where the Doctor confronts the Master and is like, can't do it. It's good. It's very reminiscent of the End of Time, which is another episode that I really like. But it's amazing. And then, again, this is why I wish this episode was more about Ko-Shamus, because I feel like there would be, and maybe if you cut the Brendan stuff from part 1, you'd have had the time to establish that Ko-Shamus was the person responsible for sending the Siberian back in time, that he feels guilt about the fact that a shadow's returned. There's so much of this character that I haven't seen, but I love how he's played. He's a great character, and I love his sacrifice. And yeah, there is so much good about these 2 episodes, but the Timeless Child is
honestly no. I think the Timeless Child is good.
Do you mean the concept or the episode?
I mean, both really. I think it's got issues, a lot of it, as we've laid out. But I think one thing that I'm kind of realizing as we discuss this is that a lot of the issues that we bring up, we are then later saying, oh, well, actually, the episode does do something kind of interesting with it. Oh, well, actually, the episode does kind of interact with those issues and is willing to think critically about them.
I think we are also being very charitable. I think there is a lot that this does wrong, I think, both in terms of, being an underwhelming story arc. I think the Timeless Child twist is bad to do. Like, I don't think you needed it. It does, like, the episode maybe doesn't do the absolute worst thing with it, but it still does it. And it's still bad, and it should still be critiqued. Like, I didn't like the episode.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's unnecessary,
and it makes the season as a whole worse. But I still think it's actually still pretty good.
I don't absolutely hate it, but I just don't. I'm not willing to follow you down this. I think overall it has so much wrong with it, and the thing is, like, even though the Master is kind of the best part of this episode, he shouldn't have been in it, right? Like, as much as the bit where he confronts a Shad is good, I would have preferred if a Shad was just the main villain. I don't like the Master subsumes. I don't like that it, I'd have preferred if it did less. This happens so much in Doctor Who, of actually, less is more. Just do the straightforward story.
Ideally, this season would have ended with a straightforward finale around a Shard without the Timeless Child in it.
Yeah.
However, given the elements that make up this episode, I think that it's still pretty good. I think, like, it's got a lot of really fundamental flaws.
I think
really strong ones. And I will not disagree with that. But I think that I find the way in which it handles those things to be interesting. Yeah. And I think that for me, I value interesting above, like, technically good in a lot of areas. And I think the fact that also a lot of the stuff that's not related to the whole Timeless Child thing is, I think, good and fun, and I like it.
Yeah.
So I think overall, this isn't great. It's not an all-timer. and it's so much worse than it should have been. But somehow, because of, I think, the interesting ways in which it handles the bad stuff, to me, it then kind of just loops around and becomes, yeah, pretty good.
I think my overall summary, like my overall opinion on the episode, and this will be concluding remarks because we've talked about this a lot, but as we should, is it is a lot less than the sum of its parts. There is a lot that is interesting. The idea of delving into, Time Lord lore is something that appeals to me specifically. The Master being this, really well played, kind of weirdly horny, but really fun character with this insane egocentricism, all these kind of mental problems that we don't. And all the stuff with the Doctor and the companions, and we haven't even talked about the idea of the Doctor wanting to keep the companions safe, and then that getting reversed. And we'll talk about this more when we get to Gate Continuum, because the 13th Doctor is so Duncan Balfour coded. But like, there's so much stuff in here. And it's dragged down, by the Timeless Child twist, which is unnecessary, and I think is just bad. I don't think it's good, overall. And, like, so much of it is just, like, it is less than the sum of its parts, I think there are parts of this that are good, that have potential to be good, but overall, I'm just disappointed. But I'm not disappointed because I've seen this episode before and it was better than I remembered. So I guess I'm, surprised by how good it was. I'm appointed Pope. Yeah. I guess. Do we have any?
I fully see where you're coming from. I just think that I find the potential within the episode to be very interesting and sort of enjoyable for me.
I think this is the thing of
I kind of like it.
I think at the end of the day,
I root for the underdog. I got to root for the underdog. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm past. I think this is a thing that I realized after listening to a lot of really good Big Finish stories of like, I'm past making excuses for things. There is better Doctor Who out there for any of this. There are things that I go to this episode for that I can go to other episodes and they'll do it better, or audio stories more likely. Do we have any concluding thoughts on Series 12?
I think that it sadly is a step down from Series 11.
Absolutely. I'd agree.
I think that there's a lot of things about Series 12 that I really enjoyed, episodes that I really enjoyed. But I think, for me, Series 11 is a sort of real shining beacon that Series 12 can't match the brightness of.
Absolutely. I think for me it is the thing that Series 11 feels hopeful. It feels like a new start, and then Series 12 it is like, no, we're going to do mystery boxes, we're going to focus on the Master and Cybermen, and like, I like the Cybermen stuff. You can do Cybermen, you can bring out Cybermen in any story. I believe this. As the writer of many Gate Continuum episodes. But like, I think it is a series that, it has good episodes, but it doesn't have any, like, Haunting of Villa Diodati is the best episode of Series 12, in my opinion. It is not as good as the best episode in Series 11. My favourite episode of Series 11 is Demons of the Punjab, which is really good. And
your absolute all-timer, incredible.
Yeah.
And I do still think that Series 12 has episodes that are really good, that I really enjoy.
Absolutely.
I like Spyfall a lot as well.
I liked the first part of Spyfall a lot. The second part, I think, was just a bit too... It held off the exposition too long, and it kind of forces it into the end, and but it's all right. I liked Haunted Video Diodati. I liked Can You Hear Me a lot, actually. That's the episode that I keep thinking about. That's the one that's really stuck with me.
Yeah, that one also, for me is really good.
Yeah. But like, Series 12 is, it has a lot of good episodes in, but it is a step down. It's a step backwards, and it doesn't do as much, and it doesn't have that, It
doesn't recapture the magic.
Yeah, and
I think Series 11. We've said this before, but there's a lot of aspects to it that really make it In terms of the season arc, it's my favorite season arc.
Yeah,
In terms of like the new monsters, in
yeah,
terms of it's a real like breath of fresh air, and it's
absolutely,
absolutely what Doctor Who needed
and still
after. Because I
needs.
mean, I like Series 10 and still needs, but I like Series 10, but the way that it ends is so. I mean, first of all, so bad because Twice Upon a Time is possibly the
Oh
worst episode of
God,
the show.
I keep
Um,
forgetting that exists.
yeah, but forgetting how bad that is, the ending of that season is so Moffat in the ways in which it kind of acts like it's the ending of all Doctor Who ever.
Yeah,
And I think that in order to move on from that, what you need is a completely fresh
yeah,
perspective and a completely fresh way of doing things, and that is what Series 11 is, and that is why
yeah,
it is so special to me and so
yeah,
important to me.
absolutely. There are, well, not a lot of episodes because there's not a lot of episodes in the series, but there are episodes in Series 11 that I think are not good. Um, you know,
Yeah,
I
this is true. This
I
is true.
do not like Kablam. I would like to make this very clear to the
This
audience that
is
I think
yeah.
Kablam is shite. I
Yeah,
also
Sublime
am
is
not a
is
massive
really
fan of
shit.
Taranga. I mean, Ghost Monument's alright. It's got some bits that are good, but I feel like it's slightly
Ghost
lacking in
Monument is
stakes.
fine.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
functional. It's
but like overall, it is what I think it should be the prototype of Doctor Who series, and I think Series 12
yeah.
steps it all back. It's like, oh no, it's going to be the Master, and I like Sash Dhawan as the Master. He's really good, but would Series 12 be better without him? Maybe. I mean, Spyfall's good, but like you could cut him from the finale, and it would be a lot better. Eh, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that depends. I think that if
Well, it
if
could be
you
a lot
cut him
worse.
from the finale without changing any of the other aspects, it would be astronomically worse.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that's
ideal
true.
version of the finale is one that doesn't involve the master, but a
Yeah,
version of
yeah.
the finale that is the current finale but someone else instead of the master is so much worse. I
God,
need to be very clear on
I'm
this.
imagining a Shad doing like the Time as Children backstory. That's the funniest
Oh
shit
Lord.
ever. Oh God. But yeah, I think Series 12, at the end of the day, and this is something, after we finish Flux and we rewatch Power of the Doctor, the thing about Chibnall is you've got to admire his ambition, and sometimes that pays off, and sometimes
Mm.
it really, really doesn't. And I think that Series 12 is a lot of it, but I think it feels so odd to say you should have just done less. You should have just, been a bit more reserved and done more normal episodes. Because, like, it's an odd thing of, like, I don't want to say Doctor Who should always play it safe. If you always play it safe, you end up with crap. But if you don't, if you don't respect the idea of, you know, just trying to do the thing rather than doing the most thing ever, then you end up with Time as Children. You end up with fucking Pandora Opens Big Bang, another episode I hate. You end up with fucking Empire of Death. You end up with I'm gonna do the most thing ever, and I'm gonna shock the audience. And it just you should have done less. You should have done a simple story where you explore some interesting themes. You do something cool and sci-fi. You do you know you play with real human characters and real human emotions. That is what you want to be doing. Doing the most
Yeah.
ever is not doesn't make your episode better. The
Yeah, I
Stolen
think
Earth is
that like
amazing, but Journey's End is
that's
less than amazing.
yeah. I think that when you try and go so hard on and to use an example of like earlier in this very episode, you
Yeah.
kind of end up trying to have two separate double suicide scenes.
God damn it! I've
And
run
that
out of
doesn't
beer.
make
I
it
can't drink
better.
for that one.
So sorry.
Got this.
Just imagine that you're drinking.
Got
But
this
like
wine, but I
it's
think it's
that
turned to
thing of
vinegar.
drink it anyway, pussy. You got that fucking thing of like it's so like you try and cram in the most drama
Mm,
you possibly can, and it
mm.
makes it farcical.
Yeah,
It no longer hits. By
yeah,
your second double suicide drink, it no longer fucking matters.
yeah. And like you can do it. Like if you think of again calling that to in this episode, exit wounds, that absolutely does a lot of stuff. But that is, fundamentally exit wounds is not about all the stuff that's happening. It's about the characters and how they react to it. And it's exactly as long enough as it needs to talk about how does this affect Gwen and Reese? How does this affect Jack? How does this affect Owen? How does this affect Tosh? Yanto's also here. I don't remember what he does in Exit Wounds. It's been a while since I watched it. I think he's good. He's always good. It's Yanto.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, talking of finales and Uber Ambition, I might need to go to the toilet before we talk about Gate Continuum. I've now gone and pissed out all the beer that I've drunk, so it's time to talk about Gate Continuum.
Gate Continuum, which, this is the first half of the finale.
Yes.
So, it's still kind of on brand for this episode.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll give a summary of what happened. As far as I can remember, I've drunk a lot this evening. Well, not a lot, but more than I usually would on a Monday. But yes, the party arrived on the planet Danak Gamma, a planet that was familiar to some of the party. I'd say all the players except Luke.
Me?
But yes, there's a plague going on. They met the Prime Minister and the Imperial suzerain. They discovered that this entire episode is a massive frontier in space reference. Draconians. I fucking love Draconians. Sorry, I'm being even more incoherent than usual. But yes, they split up. They went to a lab to try and cure the strange radiation plague that was infecting the planet. Until they went to extraterrestrial communications to try and see how they could deal with all the problems going on there. So, and at the end of the episode, it was revealed, after some things happened that I'm sure we'll talk about, that all the problems that this planet had been suffering were a result of the Daleks, who proceeded to land their fucking saucer in the middle of the town. So, I guess I'll ask for your general thoughts and then I'll ask a few more questions. So, general thoughts.
Okay, yeah. Well, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was, very, very interesting in the way that it, like, ties back to existing, Gate Continuum lore. In a way that also makes it kind of interesting because, like, obviously as someone who wasn't there when it happened, any of the stuff relating to Commander Harrington and everything, that's, yes. So but like as someone who's kind of heard about it, it's sort of, some of it I kind of got like, oh yeah, that's from that. Some of it took sort of longer to click. But I think that makes it interesting because of how you're automatically going to kind of have a bit of a setup for a certain level of conflict, just in the sense that some characters have more of a connection to this situation than others, right? So you have some characters being more affected than others, which can, even without all of the other stuff, and we'll get into that causes conflict, it sort of already primes the situation for conflict.
Yeah, I should explain to the listeners that, this episode was, the planet they're on was largely detailed. Well, I fleshed out a lot of it, but added all the guilds, and it being a draconian protectorate. But this was part of the backstory of James's first character, Kargax, also known as Commander Harrington, who was a shape-shifting alien from the planet Danak Gamma, who died in the Series 1 finale before Luke joined the game, and, Bene Mavrock showed up. So a lot of this was callbacks to that stuff, but also a lot of it was stuff that the other players didn't know. I don't think any of them really knew about, the situation of the Dracovish and the Vaemon. Obviously, I've flesh that out a bit more, but it's the idea that the dragonfish, which is Kargax's species, shapeshift and they live among the Vaemon secretly. But yeah, and this was a thing that was established in the Series 1 finale, that Danak Gamma was destroyed in the Second Dalek War. And this is something that, I was very glad that, all the other players predicted the twist. But, I mean, when did you realise it was Daleks? I assume...
Well, okay, now, you just said that they all predicted the. I didn't so good. I did not, in fact, do a lot of predicting of the twist.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean
so
you to.
No.
It was if I can surprise at least one of the players with this.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah.
I think especially because I was kind of very focused on, especially coming off of last episode with kind of Bentley's whole situation there. I was very much focused on, like, how does Bentley feel about the situation? How are we doing?
Yes.
And, like, seeing the situation as more, I was more focused on the, like, intercharacter, like, sort of drama there, and on sort of Bentley's sort of state, which by the end of the episode is not good. That I was kind of blindsided, actually. I mean, I obviously, I was very much aware that, like, something fucking weird is going on, clearly. I was sort of, trying to, like, talk to various different characters, see what everyone thought was happening, but I would not have said Daleks.
Yeah. I'm bad for pulling that one on you. I think it makes better things, and it will be an interesting thing to see in the next episode. We'll talk more about this episode, but look forwards, it'll be very interesting in the next episode. Obviously Duncan and Isaac have encountered Daleks firsthand before, and especially Isaac have some pretty kind of traumatic. I mean, they both have traumatic experiences, and they've internalized those in different ways about it. Bentley and Grey Fox, I mean, they've heard of Daleks, but they've not. That's history to them.
Yeah, so again, we kind of have that inherent build-up for conflict of, like, some characters having a different experience to others. First, we have kind of in terms of the associations with Commander Harrington. Now we have even more than that. We have the whole Dalek situation.
Absolutely. I guess, talking of intercharacter conflict, let's talk about...
the big one.
Yeah.
Yes. So, there's... Duncan and Bentley get into a bit of a conversation, shall we say? Duncan is going 13th Doctor mode.
Very much so.
As he so often does, and Bentley is being less of a dick about it than he could have been, but still kind of being a dick about it because he refuses to be undermined or patronized in any way. So we have this situation where Bentley is like, well, I need to try and figure out what's going on. I need to try and help the situation, but the only way I can do this is by stretching the psyche abilities in a way that, like, it has not been done before by Bentley. And then also you have the fact that it needs to be done specifically with the support and help of Duncan. So it's like, if something goes wrong, obviously Duncan is going to be blaming himself big time, which Bentley is incredibly offended by, because first of all, Bentley can blame himself for things just fine. And, second of all, that, takes away from kind of his agency in the situation. And he's sort of offended by the fact that he's been asked by Duncan to sort of, promise that it's going to be all right, because it's like, why do I have to promise you anything? I'm doing this.
Absolutely. And this is, this has been building since, I think, the first time these characters met, of this clash of egos. I don't want to say too much about Duncan on V's behalf, but, definitely the proprietariness that Duncan feels over the gate and all of that stuff comes across.
and sort of Bentley's need to clutch at power wherever he
Yeah.
can, including trying to cling onto the gate. And I think it's interesting in the way that their characters are so diametrically opposed, in the sense of you have Duncan, who is incredibly sort of skilled when it comes to maths technology, and Bentley, who's got nothing for that. And also you have sort of Duncan, who has this kind of physical strength that Bentley does not have.
Yeah.
But you also have, I mean, just looking at the traits and stuff, like Bentley is indomitable and has psychic powers, and Duncan is notoriously domitable.
Yeah.
So each of them kind of has something that the other lacks.
Yes.
Which sort of makes for this really interesting kind of battle of egos, where it's like, depending on the situation, one of them will be so much more equipped for that situation than the other. But it can really depend which one it is, which makes for an interesting kind of interplay there.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing, I'm not sure if that's going to resolve. I'm sure some of it's going to resolve in the next episode, but if it's going to resolve in the next episode, if it's going to resolve in series 4, if you're going to make it out of the next episode,
we'll see. Let's hope.
Because I'm not going into next episode being like, it's going to be the final episode, you're all going to die, but I'm not going to be running these Daleks at half cock. Right, they're gonna be Daleks.
Full cock Daleks.
Full cock. full manipulator
Daleks,
arm.
dick out.
yeah. But I'm, I want, and how you react to the Daleks, how this all plays out. We haven't even mentioned the genocide bomb. What's that doing here?
The fucking genocide bomb. God, that's fucked. Yeah, this is definitely, because we're talking about, in this episode, we're talking about things like, series finales, how they, work or don't work. And I think that this is really good in the way that it brings in so many different sort of aspects of not just this series, but the series sort of before, and the series before that. It brings in it ties in so many elements from the story so far. But in ways that really mean something as well, because it can be really easy to, just do the mystery box shit, or to just bring back an inconsequential thing and go, look, it's the thing that from the episode. You like that thing, right? And I can think of instances that I won't mention in Doctor Who of doing that shit. But this matters. This is shit that matters.
Yeah. Well, this is, also, I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but my kind of ethos, especially with Series 3, and also with Series 2, and Series 1 is different. Series 1 actually does have a bit of a mystery to set it up, because they find a dead body in the gate, and what is the gate, and all of that. But Series 2 and Series 3, my kind of ethos has been, the finale should be able to call back to things, but things should not, call forward, right? Like, there's a tiny bit in Series 2, like, at the end of, I'm saying this as if the audience have been there, but there was a bit at the end of the penultimate story of Series 2, 2 Hours to Death, which is the second part of 2 Shots at Midnight, where they destroy the time machine and they hear this voice calling from beyond, but that's resolved in the next episode, right? Not the gate, by the way, a different time machine. It's a whole thing. I'll explain 2 Hours to Midnight on a future podcast when we're out of ideas.
Hell yeah.
2 Hours to Death, not 2 Hours to Midnight. I've finished the wine as well.
Excellent.
But
how vinegary was it?
Not that bad. Alright. Drinkable. A bit oxidized. But we
need oxygen. It's fine.
We'll see more of this, obviously, in the finale. I don't want to, say everything. But, Series 3 has very much been about setting up this finale in terms of the characters and their things. And it's why I didn't... because I planned this finale before I had the idea that Coronzon would be watching you the whole time, because that came out of the episode where you first met Coronzon, but
Mm.
also because of, you know, in terms of I didn't want this finale to be like, let's tie the loose ends. I want it to be, this is where this has been leading to dramatically and in a character sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is very interesting because of how Coronzon feels like such an obvious
Yeah,
finale bait. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But the fact that it wasn't and still
mm.
really manages to like hit, I
Yeah,
think is a really, really good misdirect.
yeah. Because I mean, the real setup for this finale is the last days and Monsters from the Sea. You know, in terms of, those are the episodes that,
Yeah.
you know, but they're not in any way, you know, directly related to this finale. But it's the same concept in a way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's, you know, but yeah, it's the thing of, and I've wanted to do Danak Gamma for a long time because, you know, basically since I read James's backstory that he sent me, because there's a lot there, and you know, I added a lot, I embellished a lot of the idea that the Dragonfish kind of have this secret society, obviously it being a draconian thing. I hadn't watched Frontier in Space before I came up with the concept for this episode. I watched it like midway through the
Yeah, you
series,
said.
but it's great. Shout out to Frontier in Space, great episode.
Still have not seen it, honestly. I really should.
Get on that. It's only 6 episodes, but
Maybe we
it's
can
good.
talk about it on the podcast or something.
Maybe. I yeah, I really like Frontier in Space. It's probably not good if you watch all 6 back to back, because it's not that kind of episode. It's meant to be watched week by week. Who could have thought this? It's classic Who. But but yeah, I don't want, you know, I don't want to say any more about what I hope or think will happen in the Burning of Danak Gamma, which is the next episode, which is, again, I'd also like to say that I came up with that episode title before we rewatched Battle of Asgard Colossus, and I discovered it was good. I have planned this for a long time, but also,
Yes,
like,
yes.
it is a Battle of Asgard Colossus coded episode title, or Caves of Androzani. Again, they're the same title.
And, you know, in many ways, the same episode. That is not true.
That's
But,
not
you know,
true.
in many ways.
I would also say
Yeah,
that
I
Battle
know,
of
but
Asgard Colossus is a less good title because the battle is already over by the time the episode happens. It's a good episode,
no, but
and I like the title,
it's
but they don't quite
I
gel.
like the title. I can make it work. I can make it work. It's
Yeah.
fundamentally about the aftermath, you know?
Yeah, it works.
It's,
But
it's
yeah,
haunted by the battle. It's fine.
but yeah, I, you know, I'm a big fan of. I mean, I could also talk about Grey Fox in this episode. I love fucking Grey Fox being like, "I'm gonna cure this plague."
Yeah.
It's great.
Typical Grey Fox.
Yeah,
It's real
he's good.
Grey Fox hours.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I hope this finale goes off the way I want it to. At least, you know, because there's multiple paths the party could take, and I'm prepared for all of them. And you know, as long as it's good and the characters work and everything's great, then I'm happy with any of them. There's some I prefer, but you know,
all right.
but you know, in terms of, you know, there's certain things in this finale, and I'll talk about it next week. I've got things prepared. Most of this finale is mostly you know, I've set all the pieces in place, see how they fall, but there's a couple of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking
Yes.
forward to that.
I'm also going to be completely brain cooked because I'm doing like a practice run of my project presentation. Anyway,
Oh,
audience
no.
doesn't need to hear about my academic life. Yeah. But yes, yeah. Yeah, Gate Continuum. Should probably explain, yeah, Duncan being 13th Doctor coded, but we won't.
It's
Just watch essentially the
it's
Cybermen.
self-explanatory.
Yeah. It's
just watch Gate Continuum.
yeah. Come to
Talk us.
S2 dot. I'm not gonna say the room. Come to some room in the social sciences building of Warwick
Gate Continuum. Fucking hell.
Come to some room of the social sciences building of Warwick University, and you will be able to watch Gate Continuum until I ask you to leave.
Imagine if we had an audience.
God. Well, literally now I've been recording everything now. It would not be as good. No. I have many thoughts on actual play RPG podcasts and streams and YouTube things, and they're good, but they're also not as good because the audience changes things because you cannot observe a thing without it changing. But
So
yes.
true.
I don't know how long this episode has run for.
Should we
because
talk a little bit longer to make sure it passes 2 hours?
yeah. I think we might be on that
way. What else can
way.
we talk about? We're on the way, but just for the bit. Purely for the bit.
I've been listening to some
anything
great,
else you think
audio
about?
stories. I listened to Solitaire, as I said earlier. That's a good audio story. It's got Charlie in. Everyone loves Charlie. I listened to Quinnis. That's an audio story. I'm making my way through the 8th Doctor Adventures series 3? 4? 4. 3?
Nice.
Whichever one it is. 4.
I
4.
haven't listened to either, so inconsequential
Honestly,
to me, but good for you.
I listen to the 8th Doctor Adventures. They fucking rule.
At the moment, I'm doing a re-listen of some of the first stories with the main range
Yes.
8th Doctor stories.
Okay. That's good.
Because I want to do a re-listen of that, and then because I only got up to the ones I only got up to Scherzo, so I want to re-listen to all those and then keep going and meet Kira's.
Yeah, the Divergent Universe
intention.
is so good. I'm gonna admit something now. That only the audience will listen this time. I don't know how. I think maybe because I heard it was bad, or maybe because I just forgot. But I somehow missed Creed of the Chromon, which is Chris's introduction.
I have also heard that it's very bad. I was gonna actually ask you if it's worth listening to because I heard terrible
I'm going
things.
to listen to it at some point because I want to
okay.
because
So you haven't listened to
it is incredibly important. Having listened to later career stories, it is incredibly important. It's written by the same guy who wrote Vengeance on Varos. It's written by the same guy who wrote Vengeance on Varos.
He's a weirdo.
He is a freak.
Kind of a freak.
Dude has a very specific
Charlie
fetish.
in this one.
I don't know about that. I know about the stuff that happens to other things. It's very clear that this all has one very specific fetish.
Yeah.
But also, it might be good. Maybe. Who knows? But I can say the rest of the Divergent Universe arc differs between this is alright, it feels like this could have been anywhere, and holy shit, this is amazing. Ones to keep an eye out for are The Last, Natural History of Fear, which I'm sure you've heard is amazing. It's almost as good as Live 34. What's that one's good? Kedroya is fucking nonsense. I love it. The Next Life, when people ask you, what's your favourite 8th Doctor story, because there's a level at which you say is the greatest, but then there's the thinking match choices where you say The Next Life. Truly something. I feel like the story is saying a lot about Buddhism. I don't know what, because I don't know enough.
I can't wait to find out more about Buddhism with Doctor Who.
It's not Buddhism. I'm not qualified to say anything about this at all. But it's a good story. And it is a very
enjoying my kind of
yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah,
Um,
this is honestly a thing I'm realizing now, that I think the Eighth Doctor might be one of my favorite Doctors, right? Because I know
I
what my
did
top
really
three
enjoy
Doctors.
my re-listening to his stories are. Yeah, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know
You
what
go
my
ahead and then I'll
top three
say.
Doctors are, right? Like it's Sylvester McCoy, Tom Baker, Christopher Eccleston, right? That's
Mhm.
fair. But like, I think that the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann, he might be coming for place number 4, right? He's good.
He is good.
He's so good. Unfortunately, he's in the TV movie. But, you know, the 13th Doctor's in The Time as Children. I don't hold that against her. Uh, well, I do a bit, but not really, because she's good in that episode. It's just, unfortunately, the episode isn't.
Yeah.
See, I'm tying it back because I feel like we need to end this
Ah,
podcast at some point.
X.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe.
we can keep the audience here forever. It's like a heaven
We
sent
can
situation.
trap them.
Yeah.
Heaven Sent, which links to Hellbent, and now we talk about how Hellbent is bad.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention how like. Actually, yeah, let's go back to talking about the Time Machine, because this is the thing. There are so many other
Alright,
things that are the
alright.
Time Machine. Like Hellbent is I haven't talked about exactly how it's about, because it talks about the Doctor's motivation leaving Gallifrey, being about the fucking hybrid, which is awful. Which is far more destructive of the Doctor's character than having the Time of Children. But like,
absolutely.
this is the thing. It's the
And
Time of
also,
Children.
listen
Yeah.
fucks it up shit as
Yeah.
well. I
Well,
will
this is-
say.
But this is the thing. The Time of Children is very obvious as a thing you can point to and say, this episode is not very good. It's fucked. It doesn't really work with the first part. It's like it's a load of it that is just talking about this twist in a not interesting way. You can point to the Time as Child and the twist itself, and you know the concept of the Time as Child is not very good. It's bad. And you can point to that and say this is bad, and not to insult anyone in specific or in general really, but it's very easy to say oh, Time as Child bad, and to then be like, well, obviously because this is the obvious burning beacon of bad. Despite the fact that all of it's good, but overall it's bad. That this is the most destructive thing that's happened to Doctor Who or lore or quote unquote canon. And
people who worship at the concept of canon
God.
is fucked. People who are like, see, this destroys canon because before this there was one coherent, consistent canon, and after this it's all ruined forever.
Yeah.
And
the
you
fact
go,
is,
oh well, that's not canon, and that's not canon, and that's not canon. And it's just like, you have made up a concept of canon, and you have made up the criteria for what fits it. This is your personal view, and then you try to use a word like canon to define it. If people, instead of saying canon, said like my interpretation or like my Doctor Who timeline, whatever, I would be so much less mad about it.
I have the concept of episodes that are important and episodes that don't really matter, right? In my worldview, Zagreus is the most important, but like End of Time is important and Day of the Doctor isn't. Is Day of the Doctor canon? Of course it is. It's part of the canon. It is part of the body of work concerning Doctor Who. But I also have another thing which is related, which is the Gate Continuum timeline, which is mostly my attempt to force things into like a consistent Doctor Who timeline, but also with some liberties to make it more interesting. Dating the Dalek Wars versus dating the Cyber Wars. There's a reason that the Dalek Wars are bad. I will not talk about the Dalek Wars timeline. It's actually good, but we'll get onto it in a different episode, or maybe never. But yeah, the Time of Children.
Special episode where it's just you going absolutely apeshit about timelines.
Yeah, but a Time of Children is like obvious bad, whereas a lot of other things are death by 1,000 cuts. I think that overall, Stephen Moffat does worse things for the character of the Doctor than the episode The Time as Children does, right?
Got so much, though.
Yeah.
I think that Stephen Moffat fundamentally, to me, has such a different view of the Doctor
Yeah.
to the one that I have, and the one that Chris Chibnall has.
Yeah.
And the one that a lot of other people who write for the show has. And it also has a fundamental difference in how the Doctor interacts with the concept of the episodes and the concept of the show. And that's what I went into earlier on with Angels Take Manhattan, is that everything is centered around, and how does the Doctor feel about this? And that is just so fundamentally fucked up. Like, people talk about the Timeless Children making the Doctor into, like, oh, the chosen one, the most special one. No, Moffat does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Moffat does that implicitly by centering everything around the Doctor's perspective.
Exactly. And, you know, for as much as we can talk about the Timeless Children undermining, you know, the Doctor's base characterization, as if, you know, it's the thing of, you know, people were mad at Deadly Assassin, they were mad at the War Games, they're mad at Timeless Children, and I don't think the Timeless Children is anywhere near as good as those two episodes, because those are two of my favourite episodes of all time. But anyway, but like, I do think that Chibnall still, even though it doesn't really get the backstory of the Doctor right, it does it in a bad way, he gets the character of the Doctor right, like very much in that episode, right? And like, that's what matters. And yeah, I'm not here to defend Timeless Children. I think it's bad. But yeah, I think that so many people think that it is the bad episode, where it is, you know, in my opinion, it's hovering around Warriors of the Deep, you know? It's just kind of crap.
In that they are both episodes that I like.
Yeah, of course you fucking do.
I don't think that Warriors of the Deep is good, to be clear. I just think that it can be enjoyed.
Warriors of the Deep is the episode. This podcast's going on so long, but I think it's funnier if we keep it going. Also, I'm quite drunk.
The crucial thing that you need to know about Warriors of the Deep for me is that the first time I watched it was also on a day when I watched Husbands of River Song, either for the first time or for the first time since, like, being, like, many years ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hated Husbands of River Song so much, and still do.
I'm not as negative on that episode as you are. I have criticisms of it.
Yeah. But, like, it's so bad. It's so fundamentally not Doctor Who to me.
We won't go into this now. I don't dislike it as much as you do, but I agree with some of the things you think about it. But Warriors of the Deep is Warriors of the Deep almost ruined Classic Who for me. Warriors of the Deep almost ruined Classic Who for me. So I'm like, oh shit, am I gonna just look at every episode from now on and be like, these are just guys in rubber suits, why does anyone care? You know, is this gonna break the spell? Am I gonna not be able to care? Unfortunately, fortunately, this didn't happen.
Different experiences with it.
But it is the point of, you know, it's asking the question, how bad does it have to be before you realize, you know, how bad do the effects and the props and the sets and everything have to be before you realize this is just actors saying words. This is just a dude in a rubber suit. This is just two dudes in a rubber suit pretending to be a murker. Anyway.
Something interesting that you can look at in an episode that is so obvious about the artifice contained within, in an interesting, you know, if we're going into postmodern,
it's not interesting. It's just bad. I'm sorry. You could say this shit about the Happiness Patrol, about how it uses, like, the idea of constructed sets to be like, yeah, it's Brechtian. No, you can't say this about Warriors of the Deep. It's just shite.
Death of the author. If I want to do a Brechtian reading of Warriors of the Deep,
this isn't death of the author. This is This is death of your fucking eyes. This is you not looking at the episode. I think we need to stop the podcast now because I need to strangle you in real life. I need to come to your house. I know where you live, Luke. I know where you fucking live.
How dare you imply that I might not be looking at Warriors of the Deep? There's Turlo on screen. I'm looking. And I also know where you live. This is going to be a fight to the death. This is why we've been talking about so many finales in this episode of the podcast, because this is actually the last episode of the podcast, because the episode of the podcast where we both die. That's why I keep on saying double suicide. We murder each other at the same time.
Oh, fuck. The foreshadowing. I should have realised if you rearrange, it's the wrong anagram. If I rearrange the word to double suicide, it says the podcast is over.